Dominica wants compensation from the EU for being blacklisted. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, July 9th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. Prime Minister Roosevelt Scarrett says Europe should give Dominica some form of compensation for wrongly putting it on a tax haven blacklist earlier this year. The European Union had included Dominica on a list of 15 non-cooperative tax jurisdictions in March, but it removed the country in May after saying the Eastern Caribbean nation had changed its tax rules to comply with EU requirements aimed at reducing the risk of tax evasion. But Prime Minister Scarrett said the decision to put the island on the list in the first place was wrong, and Europe should consider paying some compensation. He said the EU blacklisted Dominica for no reason, and he did not want any congratulations for being taken off the list.
You cannot extend an injustice to my country, and then when you have sought to undo the injustice, you congratulated me. I say you should be indicating to me as the leader of my country what form of compensation you should be putting to us for denying us of our right for self-determination. So I do not wish to receive your congratulations because you cannot extend congratulations for causing an injustice to our nation. But in this world, as you know, there are nations that are more powerful and have controls over the economic instruments in this world and mechanisms, and they impose this on us. So we understand this.
At their annual summit in St. Lucia, CARICOM leaders said they viewed the blacklisting of Caribbean countries by the EU as a clear and direct threat to the economic well-being of those nations and the region as a whole. And CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Erwin LaRocque pointed out the insidious nature in which Caribbean jurisdictions are blacklisted.
Our member states have a sovereign right to determine their fiscal policy. Our compliance with the regulatory measures and standards for tax transparency set by the OECD, the recognized global authority, is being disregarded by others. The arbitrary impositions of rules by countries and groups of countries other than the OECD with respect to tax governance and anti-money laundering without meaningful consultation with the affected states is unacceptable.
Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro says he's hopeful about the outcome of talks in Barbados between government and opposition representatives to end the economic and political crisis in his South American nation. He's confident that if the parties continue working in accordance with the 6 main points on the agenda and there is no interference from the United States, they will be able to reach some agreement on a negotiated and constitutional solution for the sake of Venezuela. Norway, which is acting as mediator on Sunday, confirmed the talks, but gave no specific date for the start of what would be the third round of discussions between the parties. In May, the Venezuelan authorities and opposition held 2 rounds of indirect talks in Oslo. Venezuela's opposition leader Juan Guaido, who declared himself interim president back in January, is seeking the removal of President Maduro from office, and he's backed by the United States and several other Western countries. Barbados' Prime Minister Mia Mottley has welcomed the talks, which her country will host.
We are happy to be able to facilitate those discussions here that are being led by and facilitated by the government of Norway, and that involves both sides. I think Barbados has always had a reputation of a country whose foreign policy has been consistent, that we are friends of all, satellites of none, that we stay above the fray, and that we seek to bring about peace wherever we can. And this is a matter that requires the utmost patience, so it's not something that you should be asking me or anybody about on a daily basis. Let the people talk. And when you have deep divisions, it takes time, and I have every confidence in the government of Norway being able to do what CARICOM has wanted done since January in our conversations together.
Over in Guyana, President David Granger's submission of a list of people he wants the opposition to consider for the position of chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, GCOM, is threatening to hamper the process. The People's Progressive Party, PPP, says Granger's submission suggests he is not acting in good faith in the efforts to hammer out an agreement for the appointment of a new elections boss, as recommended by the Caribbean Court of Justice, the CCJ. The man who held the position before, retired Justice James Patterson, resigned 2 weeks ago after the CCJ ruled that the process used by the president to appoint him in October 2017 was flawed and unconstitutional. The Constitution provides for the appointment of a chairman from a list of 6 persons not unacceptable to the president, but which is submitted by the opposition leader. When government and opposition delegations met on Monday evening, Granger submitted 8 names for consideration. The opposition revealed that list at a press conference, and it included Patterson. The others are Kadeem Khan, Justice Claudette LeBennett, and Dr. Aubrey Armstrong, Cassandra Alves, Kim Kite Thomas, Stanley Ming, and Stanley Moore. Opposition leader Barrett Jagdeo had already submitted 11 names from the 18 that President Granger previously rejected before appointing Patterson. And PPP executive member Anil Nandlal said they were surprised at the president's submissions, as they expected the talks would focus on choosing from the opposition leaders list. On that list are Annette Arjun Martins, retired Justice of Appeal B.S. Roy, Captain Jerry Govaya, retired Major General Joseph Singh, Attorney at Law Kashir Khan, former Senior Magistrate Krishnadat Prasad, Human Rights and Conflict Resolution Consultant Lawrence Lachman Singh, retired Major General Norman McLean, Wanzi Lafleur, former Chair of the Private Sector Commission Ramesh Duku, and retired Judge William Ramlal.
It was our clear understanding that we were going there this afternoon to consider those 11 names and for the government to indicate, or rather the president's nominees and delegates on that, in that engagement, to tell us which of the 11 names the president finds acceptable and which he does not find acceptable. Lo and behold, when we get there, we are confronted with a list from the government side or from the president's side, and the members of the president team informs us that they have no instruction in relation to the 11 names. And that, we believe, violates the good faith which is intended for this process to succeed.
The two sides were due to resume talks on Tuesday evening, but Nandlal said what happened on Monday did not augur well for the continuation of the process. And another PPP executive member, Gail Teixeira, said the opposition would be forced to end its participation if the lack of good faith continued. She also expressed the opposition's concern that Granger would again unilaterally appoint a GCOM chair. There is a provision in the Constitution which provides for the president to appoint someone on his own if the opposition leader does not submit a list as provided for. Teixeira said several references were made to that provision at Monday's meeting. Meantime, as uncertainty remains about when Guyanese will go to the polls following the CCJ ruling that the no-confidence motion passed against the government was valid and elections must be held, the Finance Ministry is moving ahead with preparations for a 2020 national budget. And Finance Minister Winston Jordan says negotiations have already started for salary increases for teachers and other public servants.
Finance Minister Winston Jordan said public servants can look forward to improved salary and allowances in the 2020 national budget. He was at the time speaking with the media at the Ministry of Finance's boardroom on Monday, where he noted that the government is moving ahead with the budget preparation.
They can look forward again this year to a salary increase. We are already in negotiations with the teachers. The President has set up a high-level committee on public service to look into particularly the wage and allowances of public servants, so to speak. So we are hoping that that can be concluded in time for the figures to get into the next budget.
The minister said his government is pleased with what it has done for Guyanese over the past 4 years.
We are proud of a record of all-round development, given the limitation of the resources that we have had. We are proud of our record of human resource development, over 1,500 scholarships that have been given to all kinds of people in all kinds of sectors and so on. We are proud of those achievements, and our people can look forward to improved benefits, whether they be in the social sector, educational sector, and at the personal level as we go into 2020.
Last year, Jordan presented a $300.7 billion budget for the year 2019, an increase of 12.6% from 2018. He said the 2020 national budget is scheduled for presentation before the National Assembly by the end of November. The minister's comment was made days before the Caribbean Court of Justice delivers its consequential orders of its June 18th ruling, which validated the passage of a no-confidence motion against the government in December. The CCJ will deliver those orders on Friday, which will necessitate early elections. Elections were initially due by March 22nd, 3 months after the passage of the motion, but several court cases challenging the validity of the motion led to a delay. In its submission to the CCJ, the government is asking that the court allows President David Granger and the Guyana Elections Commission to set a date for elections.
That report from Newsroom Guyana's Baby Katoon. Still to come, the latest state of the emergency declared in Jamaica is being described as a PR stunt. We'll tell you who has that view after the break.
I've never seen before, really. Trinidad and Tobago, measuring the beer at the tablespoon only.
Here over by Trinidad and Tobago, we are having the ground beef in a bowl, and to that bowl, interesting enough, is capers.
Of dolphin, 2 nice fillets of dolphin. I'm sure she's going to take what she wants from that and return the remainder to the fridge as well.
And let me ask you, is your son's mother alive?
Yes, she is.
How does this affect her?
Well, I'm not sure. Initially, I recall her being devastated, of course, and traumatized just as I was. And during the time that he was inside of when he was sent to juvenile hall, we visit him every Sunday.
He would be the second oldest. Okay, do any of the other kids go see him?
Denny has 2. No.
Welcome back. Jamaica's opposition leader, Dr. Peter Phillips, has supported the latest state of emergency announced by Prime Minister Andrew Holness. But the man who's challenging Phillips for leadership of the People's National Party, Peter Bunting, doesn't share the view. In fact, the former National Security Minister has described it as a public relations gimmick. Bunting said that up to April 27th this year, murders were down by 9% without a state of emergency in effect, and the situation changed for the worse since the declaration of states of emergency in St. James, Hanover, and Westmoreland. Bunting is adamant there's no need for the states of emergency.
The state of emergencies are being used as a public relations.
A stinging rebuke by Peter Bunting of the government's use of the state of public emergency as a crime-fighting tool, the latest of which was announced on Sunday for St. Andrew South Police Division. Mr. Bunting, a former national security minister, said the manpower needed for a state of emergency could be better utilized.
I passed the checkpoint a number of times today. There are maybe 10 military personnel and a couple police officers there 24/7. That, if you multiply that by 3 shifts a day, by 7 days a week, by maybe, I don't know how many, 6 or 8 of those checkpoints across the parishes, that's maybe 500 or 600 security personnel just being used for PR purposes. That is a waste of those resources. Those resources could be used in a much more targeted manner.
Bunting pointed to the period between January and April this year when there was no SOE, yet murders trended down 9%. But since then, 3 parishes have had SOEs, and this was followed by a 20% jump in murders nationally, though the 3 parishes in question have experienced declines.
The data says that it has not been effective, and we need something more meaningful from the government to respond to the crime situation.
For the National Security Minister, it would be better if the soldiers and police were utilized for intelligence-driven raids on gangsters to apprehend them and take their illegal weapons.
That report from TVJ's Dwayne Anderson. Backbenchers from Bermuda's ruling Progressive Labour Party, PLP, are calling for a fresh discussion on independence. Their calls come 24 years after voters overwhelmingly rejected cutting ties with Britain in a referendum. Former Cabinet Minister Walton Brown says the need for a debate has become more important because the British government has forced social and financial policies on Bermuda. Another government legislator, Rolf Commichong, said the subject of independence was far from dead. He said that in many ways it's maybe even more relevant now for due consideration than it has been for the last 1 or 2 decades. Commichong contended that independence would create a truly national identity and real citizenship for Bermuda. The PLP, which ruled the island from 1998 until 2012 and then from 2017, has long supported independence, but there has been little thirst for independence among voters. Ahead in Newsline Sport, West Indies to face Afghanistan in a full series later this year. We'll be right back.
French Guyana, Cayenne. Actually, I didn't know that. I just learned that offset. But comme ça.
No.
Okay, mes parents au fait.
Haïti.
Haïti. So, au fait na French Guyana, mais you live in Paris.
Yes.
Pour toute vie.
Yes.
Okay. So, what is the importance or qui importance lié pour where culture style la musique?
Ben, pense que
Welcome to this year's 50th Caribbean Broadcast Union Assembly on the island of San Andres. San Andres is a small archipelago located in between Jamaica and Panama in the western Caribbean Sea. A lush, exotic island rich in culture, history, gastronomy, and breathtaking scenic views. Known for its beaches and 7-colored crystalline waters, the island of San Andres will be proudly hosting this year's event. CBU members will enjoy top-of-the-line accommodations for an unforgettable experience in San Andres, connecting Caribbean nations through this year's 50th edition of the CBU Assembly.
West Indies will clash with Afghanistan in a full series in India in November. That's according to a release from the Afghanistan Cricket Board, which says the tour, which will run from November 5th to December 1st, will feature 1 test, 3 one-day internationals and 3 T20 internationals, and it's in keeping with the ICC Future Tours program. West Indies have never played against Afghanistan in the test, but have faced them in the shorter formats, winning 2 of 6 ODIs and 3 of 4 T20Is. At the ICC World Cup qualifiers in Zimbabwe last year, the Windies failed to beat Afghanistan in 2 attempts, including the final. Afghanistan was one of 2 nations, along with Ireland, to acquire test status 2 years ago. They've played only 2 matches, losing both to powerhouses India and fellow minnows Ireland. Their hosting of the Windies marks a busy end of the year for the Caribbean side, which is set to host India in August and September in 2 tests, 3 ODIs and 3 T20Is. Switching sports now, Barbados was among 2 Caribbean countries finishing with precious medals at the conclusion of the Central American and Caribbean Championships. They claimed silver overall in the tournament, which was won by Mexico, while Trinidad and Tobago got the bronze medal. As we hear in this CBC News report, the Bajans ended the championships going under to Puerto Rico in water polo on Sunday.
Barbados under 15 in the Blue Caps against Puerto Rico. That's Marino Jose Del Rio easily beating the keeper to open their account. You could see a splash. The visitors had already tossed in another through Kai Alexander Del Ortiga Ramirez. Fast forward a bit with Puerto Rico now looking for their third, and they got it through Andres Garcia Diaz. But the Bajan lads fired back with Kai Ryan Adams finally finding the back of the net to make the score 3-1. However, Martin Furriega with a spirited swim and the loop over the goalie added 2 more. This is one of them for Puerto Rico to lead the first 5-1. Let's fast forward to the final quarter with Puerto Rico leading 12-3. Well, let's make that 13-3 after this fair strike by Garcia. After a block by the keeper, Jimmy Ardano then added the final nail in the coffin. That's 14 for Puerto Rico. And the consolation goal came late in the game for Barbados from some distance away. That's Adams. But the visitors still sum away with a resounding 14-4 win.
Meanwhile, Team Trinidad and Tobago has much more to celebrate than their third place finish in water polo. TTT's Ruskin Mark, who caught up with the team on Sunday, explains.
Looking full of life and ready for their next match, only this time they have the hardware around their necks as CCCAN Water Polo Champs 2019. Nathan Hines scored 6 times to help TNT hold off Puerto Rico 12-9 in the final for boys under 15. David Agard added 4 valuable goals for TNT, while Miguel Green and Christian Chidley chipped in with 1 each for TNT to remain perfect after also turning back Puerto Rico 11-6 and 14-2, while hammering Barbados 20-3 and 19-3 in round-robin play.
It's actually, I think it's a culmination of a tremendous amount of work that the kids have put in. We train very early in the morning, train very late at night. They balance a very difficult schedule with exams, of course, especially lately. And to go compete against all the Central American and Caribbean teams and come away with a gold. It's our first gold in quite a while, so it's a tremendous achievement. And we're very lucky to have such talented players.
The proud participants, all of whom compete in domestic age group competitions, are primed for bigger and better things as they continue to grow and develop in the sport.
And a controversy in the Bahamas camp forced the team to miss out on a gold medal at the Water Polo Championships. The Bahamas government and Bahamas Aquatics came under fire for lack of financial support for the team to compete for the top prize. But Bahamas Aquatics boss Alton Cargill rubbished the claim, saying there was never any discussion on funding.
And malicious for many reasons. The Water Polo Division of Bahamas Aquatics made their own travel plans. Initially, the Bahamas Aquatics Federation had made a decision not to compete in water polo CCCAN, but because the parents wanted their athletes to participate, they set about raising funds for water polo and fell short. And although we had earmarked our funding for the Junior Pan American Games, we nonetheless contributed towards CCCAN. But at no time did the Water Polo Division of Bahamas Aquatics discuss with us, or I can say the government, that they will go into water polo and will not be able to compete for the gold medal game because they could not afford to stay another day. I say that because just how we contributed $4,000, if it cost another $1,000 or so to pay for the gold medal game, we would have done that.
Finally, in horse racing, Jamaican reinsman Sean Bridgmoon got up late with 9-5 favorite Sensitive to win the $75,000 Ellis Park Turf Stakes on Sunday. With Sensitive starved for racing room inside the final furlong, a seam opened up between leaders Stave and Valentine Wish along the rails, and the jockey darted the 5-year-old bay mare through to take the wire by a head in a time of 1 minute, 40.99 seconds.
Back of the pack early is Smart Shot. Compact field, though, with 6.5 furlongs to travel, 7 lengths from top to bottom. First quarter wasn't all that fast, 24-4. So as they head up for the backstretch run, Valentine Wish will show them down the backside in front by 3 parts of a length. Stave tracking from second. Up on the extreme outside, Lady Mamba's third to the inside, Sensitive racing in fourth. In the center of the track, Flametta is fifth towards her inside. American Frolic is sixth. A link for the back to Smart Shot. And eighth and trailing still is Callio. They're still clustered up as they head towards the half-mile pole. 8 links from top to bottom. Half mile was 49-1. Long shot leader Valentine Wish, leader by a length. Stave still tracking from second. 3 wide is Lady Mamba. Sensitive to the inside, keen to go on from fourth. American Frolic is being turned upon to keep pace from fifth. Out wide is Flametta to the inside. Smart Shot Callio still last of the lot, but she's starting to close in now after 3 quarters, 112-4. Still chasing Valentine Wish, who's been opposed on the lead thus far. And as they race towards the head of the lane, Valentine Wish will turn them on down. Here's Stave with a 2-wide bid as they straighten away in the Ellis Park Turf Stakes. It's Valentine Wish still there. Stave is trying to get by her, and Sensitive has a shot from between horses late on the scene. Smart Shot from the backfield as they start to tighten up late in the game. It's Stave and Sensitive trying to split horses in a 3-way thriller in the Ellis Park Turf Stakes. I think Sensitive got through in the middle, but that will...
And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
Gotta change for me. Yes, I make the sound everywhere I go. I have a dream, and my dreams will come true. Only if I put my trust and my focus is on you.
Welcome to this year's 50th Caribbean Broadcast Union Assembly on the island of San Andres. San Andres is a small archipelago located in between Jamaica and Panama in the western Caribbean Sea. A lush, exotic island rich in culture, history, gastronomy, and breathtaking scenic views. Known for its beaches and 7-colored crystalline waters, the island of San Andres will be proudly hosting this year's event. CBU members will enjoy top-of-the-line accommodations for an unforgettable experience in San Andres, connecting Caribbean nations through this year's 50th edition of the CBU Assembly.
One-minute mango eating competitions for primary school students and adults were some of the activities patrons engaged in during the first ever mango exhibition. Visitors were intrigued to learn of the 20-plus varieties of mangoes available on the island. Persons also sampled and purchased products made from the fleshy fruit, which included chips, amchar.
The major developments of this day. Dominica wants compensation from the EU for being blacklisted as a tax haven. And in sport, West Indies to face Afghanistan in a full series in India in November. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport round the clock, subscribe to canonnews.com. For more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and have yourselves a good night.